I found myself in a rather unexpected situation, clad only in my underwear, when my stepson walked in without warning. There are moments in life that catch us off guard, etching themselves into our memories in a way that can never be erased. It was just another ordinary day when Zane unexpectedly stepped into my room, catching me completely off guard. It was an ordinary afternoon. It was just another day, my husband at the office as always, while Zane, his son from a previous marriage, had recently returned home after navigating the stormy seas of a difficult breakup. Ever since he came back, we found ourselves treading lightly, carefully sidestepping the shadows of past conflicts. In the quiet of my room, I slipped into a dress, envisioning the upcoming event, but soon felt the urge to transform into something different. In the midst of this transformation, there I stood, clad only in my underwear, when the door swung open. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, allowing me to keep sharing more captivating true tales like this one. Be sure to watch this video all the way through, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as this tale is bound to captivate you. Kindly tap the like button to express your support. Maya, have you caught a glimpse of Zane? Adil's voice fell silent. Zane stood still in the doorway, his eyes growing wide with surprise. I inhaled sharply and swiftly reached for something to shield myself. Zane, I called out, but he swiftly turned away, nearly stumbling in his haste. The door slammed shut, leaving me frozen in place, my cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and bewilderment. Zane's return had stirred something within me. Adil proposed it without consulting me beforehand, and though it didn't catch me off guard, after all, Adil frequently acted on impulse without considering the repercussions, it still felt unsettling. Zane seeks a refuge for a time. Adil had remarked one evening, hardly glancing away from his phone. Do you mind, perchance? Of course, I found myself unable to say no. Zane had always carried himself with a certain politeness, a touch of distance lingering in the air between us. Our relationship had danced along the edges of cordiality, yet remained largely superficial. However, having him here now felt like stepping into a new chapter altogether. His presence lingered like a shadow, a constant echo of Adil's past, weaving tension into the very air around them. At 25, Zane possessed an allure that was simply undeniable. He possessed Adil's dark hair and sharp jawline, yet his eyes held a softness and depth of thought that set him apart. He moved through the world with a serene assurance, which rendered his recent heartbreak all the more unexpected. One fateful evening, as the candles flickered and the aroma of dinner filled the air, Zane laid bare a truth that shattered my world. He had cheated on me, revealing his secret in the absence of Adil. I endeavored to maintain a cheerful exchange, yet Zane's straightforwardness took me by surprise. My deepest apologies, Zane, I had expressed. Do not be, he had merely shrugged. It unfolds. On a Wednesday afternoon, while Adil was busy at the office and Zane was meant to be out running errands, I found myself in my room, trying on a dress for an upcoming charity event. The dress, as I recalled, didn't fit quite right. With a heavy sigh, I removed it and let it fall onto the bed, a silent testament to my disappointment. As I stood there, clad only in my bra and underwear, my gaze wandered in search of something else when the door swung open. Maya, have you caught a glimpse of Zane? His voice faded away as his eyes absorbed the unfolding scene. I stood motionless, my hand clutching the hanger as his eyes darted between me and the ground. His face flushed a deep crimson, and he swiftly pivoted, nearly toppling a lamp in the process. Apologies escaped his lips, a tremor in his voice as he retreated from the room. Zane, I gasped, swiftly reaching for a robe. The door banged closed and I remained frozen, my heart pounding, as the weight of the moment settled around me. Throughout the day, I kept my distance from him. I lingered in my room, feigning busyness, yet my mind wandered aimlessly, unable to settle on a single thought. The vision of his astonished expression lingered in my mind, and whenever it crossed my thoughts, a wave of humiliation washed over me. That evening at dinner, the air was heavy with unspoken words between us. Were you able to complete those errands today? I inquired, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. Indeed, Zayn responded, his gaze fixed on his plate. Adil cast his gaze back and forth between us, completely unaware of the tension hanging in the air. I suggested to Zayn that he take a break and reflect on everything for a while. That's a splendid notion, I remarked, though my tone was perhaps a touch too exuberant. Zayn lifted his gaze, his expression a mystery. Your hospitality is truly appreciated, he remarked. I shall not linger beyond what is necessary. Oh, come now, Adil chuckled, waving away the notion with a light-hearted air. You are part of the family. The days that came after were filled with an overwhelming heaviness. Each encounter with Zayn was charged, as if we were both navigating a delicate boundary that neither of us dared to breach. He steered clear of moments spent alone with me, and I told myself it was for the greater good. Yet, in spite of my attempts to cast the incident aside, it lingered in my thoughts far more frequently than I would have preferred. One evening, I noticed him gazing at me from the other side of the room. His gaze was fleeting, yet it held on just long enough to send a flutter through my stomach. I averted my gaze, feigning indifference, yet that moment lingered in my mind. It wasn't long before I started to observe shifts in his demeanor. He began to return home sooner, dedicating more moments to the communal areas. On a quiet night, I stumbled upon him in the kitchen, casually leaning against the counter, a glass of water cradled in his hand. Rest eludes me, I inquire, maintaining a cheerful tone. He simply shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. In a manner akin to that. In that stillness, we lingered, the soft hum of the refrigerator weaving through the quiet like an unseen thread. Once in a hushed moment, he expressed his regret, saying, I'm sorry. No need for apologies, I replied swiftly. I ought not to have simply strolled in, he persisted, his eyes locked in a steady gaze. Upon the ground. It was an accident, I murmured gently. Let us simply set it aside. He raised his gaze, our eyes locking in a moment of connection. Is that truly what you desire? The inquiry took me by surprise. In that moment, I found myself at a loss for words. It's for the best, I finally declared. He nodded, yet the look on his face hinted at lingering doubts. One fateful evening, the air thick with anticipation, a call came through, revealing that he would be toiling away into the night. I found myself in the cozy living room. I was lost in the pages of a magazine, when Zayn stepped through the door. He lingered in the doorway, caught in a moment of uncertainty about whether to remain or step away. Would you like to watch something? He inquired at last, motioning towards the television. Absolutely, I replied, placing the magazine aside. He settled in next to me. We stood there enveloped in silence, yet the atmosphere around us buzzed with unvoiced emotions. In a fleeting moment, our fingers grazed as we both reached for the remote, and an electric jolt surged through me. He withdrew his hand. In an instant, his face flushed a deep shade of pink. Apologies slipped from his lips, barely audible. It's all right, I responded, though my voice quivered. The moment slipped away, yet it lingered in the air, a whisper of what could have been, a notion we chose to overlook. On a few nights that followed, I found myself wide awake, long after the clock had struck midnight. In the stillness of the house, the only sound was the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock, a rhythmic reminder of time passing by. As I rose from my slumber and made my way to the kitchen, the aroma of possibility filled the air, only to discover Zayn already occupying the space. He lingered at the table, a mug of coffee cradled in his hand, his gaze wandering far beyond the room. The gentle glow from the under-cabinet lamps danced across his features, weaving shadows that added years to his youthful 25. Rest eludes me as well, I inquired, propping myself against the doorframe. He glanced upward, taken aback, and then offered a subtle smile. Something akin to that. I filled my cup with steaming tea and settled into my seat opposite him, ready for the unfolding tale. For a fleeting moment, we lingered in quietude. Then, out of the blue, he shattered the stillness. "Do you ever feel stuck?" he inquired, his voice a calm whisper, steady as the night. "Trapped," I echoed, tilting my head. "It feels as if you're merely drifting along," he remarked, his gaze fixed intently into his coffee, fulfilling the expectations of others yet never truly embracing the essence of your own existence. His words struck me with a force I hadn't anticipated. With a moment of pause, I pondered my response. "Indeed," I whispered softly, more frequently than I care to acknowledge. He gazed up, his gaze seeking mine. "What actions do you take in response?" "I don't know," I confessed. "For countless moments, I have prioritized the needs of others above my own. A deal for this house. Always lost in the thoughts of others, never pausing to consider my own desires." Zane's eyes held a firm focus. "Perhaps the moment has come for you to take that step." His words lingered in the space that separated us. A trial that left me questioning my preparedness. After that night, the dynamics between us transformed. It began with a whisper, a fleeting gaze exchanged, a gentle touch of fingers in the corridor. One afternoon, as I tended to the roses in the garden, Zane came to join me. "I need help," he said, crouching beside me. "Do you truly know the art of pruning a rosebush?" I playfully inquired. "Not a clue," he confessed with a playful smile. I chuckled, passing him the shears. "Well, let's hope you don't bring it to an untimely end." In our collaboration, a wave of comfort washed over me, a feeling I hadn't known in ages. Zane's presence anchored me in a manner I had not anticipated. "You're quite skilled at this," I remarked, observing him as he meticulously shaped the branch. With a grin, he remarked on the fortune of a novice. "Indeed," I remarked, "you possess a remarkable eye for detail." He cast a fleeting look my way, and I could see his demeanor gently shift. "Perhaps I picked it up from observing you." The unexpected praise took me by surprise, rendering me momentarily without words. As the evening wore on and we tidied up after dinner, our hands met once more while reaching for the same plate. The fleeting touch sparked a surge within me, echoing all that had been simmering between us. Apologies slipped from Zane's lips as he swiftly withdrew his hand. "It's all right," I replied, even as my voice quivered. He paused, weighing his words carefully before continuing. "Sanaa," he uttered, gazing up at me. Silence reigns. "Forget it." The air crackled with an undeniable tension, and I sensed that everything was on the brink of transformation. As the days unfolded, the transformations between Zane and me grew increasingly apparent. The truth was too big to keep under wraps any longer. The house, once a refuge, now resembled a pressure cooker brimming with untold secrets. At last, the moment we all anticipated arrived. One morning, Adil approached me in the kitchen. His face was ashen, and his hands quivered as he raised his phone, revealing the evidence of what had transpired. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder, the tale began. "I've been aware of what's been unfolding," Adil declared. His voice resonated with a mix of disbelief and fury. "How long has this tale been unfolding?" I found myself unable to meet his gaze. "For months," I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. Adil's face flushed a deep crimson, a storm of anger brewing within him. "Several moons. As I've been toiling away, crafting this life for us, you've been." His voice trembled, and the anguish in his eyes was unmistakable, yet the moment had slipped away. Zane entered at that moment, his expression shifting to one of resolve as he absorbed the unfolding scene. "Adil, this isn't solely her doing," he stated, his tone steady yet resolute. "Do not defend her," Adil growled, his fury now aimed squarely at Zane. "You were meant to be my child. You turned your back on me." "I didn't mean for this to happen," Zane said steadily, "but I love her." Adil was filled with disbelief. "Do you believe this is love? This is an act of self-centeredness." The disagreement intensified rapidly. Accusations swirled around me like a tempest as I remained rooted to the spot, caught in the eye of the storm. Powerless. Get out. Adil finally exclaimed. Both of. Leave my home at once. His expression was resolute and definitive. I have no desire to listen to that. Your decision has been set in motion. Zayn and I gathered our belongings quietly, the air thick with unspoken words. The burden of our choices lingered, palpable in the atmosphere around us. With a suitcase in hand, I paused to cast a lingering look at the house behind me. It had lost its warmth, no longer embracing me as it once did. It was merely a chapter in the tale of my life. Do you truly believe this is the right path? I inquired of Zayn as we settled into the car. He paused, his gaze fixed on the winding path before him, as if weighing the words that hung in the air. I found myself at a loss, my voice barely above a whisper, as the weight of uncertainty settled heavily within me. As we drove away, my phone buzzed, breaking the silence of the moment. A message arrived from Laura, accompanied by a link to a post on social media. The post held within captivating glimpses of the exchanges shared between Zayn and me. The aftermath was rapid and merciless. Those I once held dear have distanced themselves from me. They wielded their judgment with a severity that left no room for mercy. Adil sought to end his marriage just days later, abandoning me to gather the fragments of my broken existence. Zayn attempted to stand by my side, yet even he was powerless against the tempest that raged on. The weight of our choice gradually revealed itself as time unfolded. The fissures in our bond became increasingly difficult to overlook. One evening, as we nestled in the cozy confines of our rented apartment, Zayn cast a weighty gaze my way, his expression laden with unspoken thoughts. This isn't what you desired, he murmured gently. As I gazed upon him, my eyes welled up with tears. It's not the tale you envisioned, is it? Zayn rose to his feet, making his way toward the door. He took a moment, his gaze drifting back to me. With a soft voice, he whispered, "You will always hold a special place in my heart. Yet, we mustn't hold on. Engaging in this endeavor." And with that, he vanished into the ether. In the months that followed, I embarked on a journey to reconstruct the pieces of my life. The murmurs and scrutiny from those surrounding me served as unending echoes of my missteps. Yet, in the stillness, I discovered a profound understanding. After a long stretch of time, I found myself reflecting on my true desires. Not for Adil, not for Zayn, but for my own journey. As I reflect on my journey, I come to understand that although the past is unchangeable, it offers invaluable lessons for the future. And perhaps, just perhaps, there lies a path for me to step into the future. The days that followed Zayn's departure were the most challenging I had ever faced. The apartment was steeped in an unsettling silence in his absence. The burden of all I had lost bore down on me with unyielding force. Adil's absence, though anticipated, cast a shadow of emptiness that lingered in the heart. Friends I believed I could count on vanished. Their judgment loomed large, impossible to conceal beneath the veil of courteous dialogue. Yet, I found myself unable to linger in despair. The initial strides of reconstruction were fraught with discomfort, yet utterly essential. In a quaint local art supply store, I found myself immersed in a world of vibrant pigments and untouched canvases, each a testament to the boundless possibilities that lay before me, even as I seldom engaged with them. It was Maya who took the first step to connect. One morning, she reached out and invited me to share a cup of coffee. Upon her arrival, her tone softened, yet her eyes remained watchful, brimming with a hint of caution. "I'm not here to lecture you," she said gently, "but I just want to know, are you okay?" In that moment, I found myself pausing, caught in a web of uncertainty about how to reply. "I'm not quite sure, I confess, but I'm on a journey to discover it." Maya nodded, her expression contemplative. "That is all you can do." Months later, just as the wounds were beginning to scab over, a knock on my door shattered the delicate peace I had managed to find. I opened it and froze. Before me stood Adil. He appeared more aged than I recalled, his visage weary, yet his aura still bore the same significance. The air was heavy with unspoken words as he lingered, his gaze probing my expression for any hint of transformation. "Shall we engage in a conversation?" Adil inquired, his voice unexpectedly serene. I moved aside to grant him entry, yet the air was thick with the weight of unvoiced thoughts. He chose not to take a seat, instead positioning himself by the window, gazing out at the street below. "I believed I would despise you," he started, his voice low, "for the actions you took, for the things you shattered." I settled onto the couch, my hands entwined in a restless dance upon my lap. "Adil, allow me to complete my thought," he interjected, pivoting to meet my gaze. "Once I believed my heart would brim with disdain for you, yet here I stand, enveloped instead in a profound sadness. For us. For what might have been in the tapestry of our lives." His words struck with a force unmatched by anything else. It was never my intention to cause him pain, yet somehow, I did. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I said, my voice quivering with emotion. "I understand," he responded. His voice, heavy with sorrow, lingers in the air, yet that does not ease the burden. We wove together hours of conversation, revisiting the moments from our marriage that had slipped by unnoticed, yet now shimmered with significance. As he departed, the fury that had once consumed us began to fade, giving way to a serene sense of understanding. It wasn't forgiveness, yet it was a thread I could grasp tightly. Zayn's departure created a void that words could hardly capture. Where had he ventured off to? Did he feel remorse for his choice? Did he still hold me in his thoughts as I did him? One evening, as I finished my shift at the art supply store, I discovered a letter carefully placed beneath my windshield wiper. My heart soared as I recognized the familiar handwriting. "Sana," the letter began, weaving its tale. "I believed that departing would lighten the burden, yet it has proven otherwise. Your memory lingers in my thoughts. Let me share a little about who we are. I find myself pondering whether you've found a new path forward. I trust you have. Nurture your well-being. Once upon a time, there was a name that echoed through the hearts of many, Zayn. The letter bore no signature, yet it required none. I absorbed it. Time and again, every word evokes a blend of feelings. A wave of relief washed over me, mingled with a deep sadness, and a flicker of selfish hope that perhaps I had not been cast aside in the shadows of memory. Moved by the words of the letter, I found myself picking up the brush once more. In the beginning, it served merely as a means to break the quietude. A respite from the clamor within my mind. As the canvas comes alive with color, I sensed a piece of my essence reawakening. A part one hadn't even known was absent until that moment. Maya happened upon a day filled with an unexpected surge of creativity. "These are incredible," she exclaimed, her eyes dancing over the vibrant paintings adorning the walls. "These should be shown." Uncertainty lingered in my mind, and I found myself pausing. "Have faith in yourself, Sana," Maya urged with unwavering conviction. "There's a tale within you that deserves to be told." A year after Zayn departed, destiny wove its threads to bring him back into my life. In the midst of my gallery's grand opening, I caught sight of him from across the room. He appeared transformed, aged, yet the allure he possessed remained unchanged. "Sana," he murmured gently as he drew near. "Zayn," I responded, my heart pounding with excitement. We lingered for a moment, the clamor of the room softly receding into the distance. "You accomplished it," he remarked, motioning to the artwork that surrounded us. "I had to," I steadied my voice for myself. He nodded, a smile dancing at the edges of his lips. "Your achievements fill me with pride." We shared our thoughts for hours that night, weaving through tales of everything and nothing. As the last visitor departed, a serene connection lingered in the space between us, rich with unspoken comprehension. Zayn left town, and this time, his departure didn't carry the same weight of sorrow it once did. It seemed as though a chapter was coming to a close. A chapter one would forever hold dear, even with the sorrow it carried. In the heart of my studio, enveloped by a vibrant tapestry of colors and textures that spoke of my new journey, I came to a profound realization: the past, though an indelible part of my story, need not dictate the narrative of my future. After a long stretch of turmoil, I finally found a moment of tranquility.